Okay, so to start, we will talk about number one. We said that the three steps that we will be following today, the first step is to move the variable to one side. The second step will be to add or subtract the constant so that it's away from the variable. And then the final step, in this case, all of them are division, but it's usually multiply or divide by the coefficient. That's to get the variable alone. Okay, so number one, you do have a variable on both sides, so you do need to move the variable, and we always move the least variable. Okay, and so which one is least, 14x or 8x? 8x, and so this is understood to be positive because there's not a symbol in front of it. So the inverse would be subtraction or a negative. So minus 8x under itself and under its like term on the other side. We have to put it under another x term. Okay, so opposites cancel. That's why we did the inverse. 29 comes down. Okay, and then what is 14x minus 8x? Okay, it is a positive 6x, so plus 6x. And then negative 91, don't forget that negative sign, it is with it. That comes down. We didn't have to do anything to that yet. Okay, and if we're following our list of steps, our next step, number 2, is to add or subtract the constant. So we look on the side with the variable, that is 6x. The constant is negative 91. So what is the inverse of negative 91? Positive 91, and you do need to write the plus sign. The inverse cancels itself out. 6x is left. And what is 29 plus 91? 120. Okay, and now we're to our third step. Our third step is to multiply or divide by the coefficient. In this case, we're dividing by what? We're dividing by 6 because that's the coefficient of x. Inverses cancel, and x equals, what's 120 divided by 6? 20. Make sure to box in that answer. Okay. Go ahead and start out number 2 on your own. Okay, so what would our first step be for number 2? We're going to move our variable to one side. Which one are we moving? Okay, so you have to ask yourself, negatives are different. We have negative 13x and negative 14x. And which one is the lowest value? The negative 14. So the inverse of minus 14 or negative 14 is what? Positive 14x. And you're going to have to do it on both sides. If you accidentally move the 13 and you want to do it the way that we are doing it, then just make that correction. Okay, so these cancel. 10 comes down. It is positive. Negative 13 plus 14 is positive 1. So that's how I know it's a plus sign, because it is positive. And then negative 17, don't forget that negative sign. That is very important. That is our most common mistake when solving equations. So now from here, we need to do step number 2, move our constant. So what are we moving? 17. What's the inverse of negative 17? Okay, so we do that on the left side of the equal sign and on the right side. And I know that it goes with 10 because 10 is a constant, but also it's the only thing left. Okay, so this cancels. 1x comes down. And 10 plus 17 is 27. And our final step, step number 3, is to multiply or divide by the coefficient. So what are we doing here? Divide by 1. And x equals 27. Okay, just to get you started with number 3, which one would we move first? Would we move the negative 10 or the negative 7? Negative 10. And we will show that by adding 10 underneath the 10x and adding 10 under the negative 7x. Be careful with your signs. This is a minus 69, but when you move it on its own, you'll have a negative 69. Okay, so go ahead and take a few minutes and do number 3 and number 4.